Hello everyone, Miss Carrie here from Miss Carrie's Creations. Today I'm sharing a page that I created for the Scrap the Boys January Challenge, where we are each featuring a layout with multiple photos. This archery design has a more masculine feel to it, but as you know, I'm also a fan of archery, so the design could be used for anyone who enjoys the sport. On this page, I'm going to be using some elements from two Simple Stories collections. One is a fall collection that will match the autumnal colors of the photos, and the other is a lakeside collection which has some great neutral tones and outdoor elements. I am going to use this stone pearl pattern paper for the background, and I'm going to place a few layers of pattern papers onto the page that I want behind the photos. The photos have been cut to 3 inches by 2.5 inches, and I made sure that each one has the same ground level and branch in the frame so that you can see the progression of the arrow being shot in the photos. This is something I did in Canva and with my photo editor. I know that some of you have asked me for some Canva photo collage instructions, and I am working on a video series for you. If you're a subscriber, you will be notified once those videos are up on my site. Now that I have all the elements laid out, I'm going to mark where these are placed and add a little bit of color to my background. I'm spraying a little bit of pigment onto my silicone mat, and then I'm lifting the color with the acetate and pressing it onto the paper. I'm using an acetate sheet that was left over from one of my Cricut mats. You can also use some packaging or plastic wrap for this technique. For this process, I want to use the squared off portion of the acetate because I want to create the look of a frame around my pattern papers. Now, I forgot to mention that I did prep this paper with some clear gesso before I added the coloring. I'm repeating the application process a few more times, and then I dried the ink with a heat tool. Once that was dry, I added another layer of color for depth. This one is a little darker, and I'm just adding a little bit of it here and there along with some splatters. You can use just about any type of spray for this background, but I chose Distress Oxide sprays because I like their chalky finish once they dry. Now, this might look a little bit messy, but remember, not all of this is going to show up on the page. It's just going to peek out behind the pattern papers and help frame the photos. All right, I'm going to set this aside to dry for a moment, and then I'll attach my pattern papers in place and add embellishments. Off camera, I added some stitching around the edges and tore the black and white pattern paper. Now I'm laying out the blue and brown stripes onto this background. I am using a spray bottle to add some water to the edges to help with the tearing, then lining them up and running them through my sewing machine. I'm placing the photos at the base of the page on some foam to give them a little bit of dimension. On either side of the photo, I'm adding a little label that I cut in half to help ground this part of the page. With all these horizontal elements on the page, I need to add some vertical ones for balance. I have a tag sticker here that I've cut in half. I'm going to place part of this above the photo and part of it below to make it appear like the tag is much longer than it really is. I'm also going to add a blue tab sticker that says relax and unwind, and a little phrase that says my favorite place to be. Now that I have added some orange and green to the page, I want to continue adding those colors and continue with the vertical line. At the top of the layout, I'm adding a sticker that says time well spent and a tab that says outdoors. These line up visually with the other elements to create that invisible vertical line. To form a visual triangle and frame for my title, I'm going to layer some elements here on the left side of the page. This archery range is near a lake, so the lake elements go well with this memory. When I added these to the page, I struggled with the bright spring colors on these elements. So I brought in some stickers from the autumn collection to balance it out and make them look like they were fall related. I just layered a few leaves behind the other pieces and laid some of the leaf die cuts over the top of the bright spring leaves on top of the envelope. This just covered up some of those brighter greens and gave me a warm autumn look. For the title, I'm going to use this bold foam sticker with some orange and brown colors. This is going to line up with the orange phrases and that vertical line. The orange color also matches the hues in the photos. Now I took these at sunset and the light reflected off of all the fall colors in the leaves and dry plants around him. I didn't expect the photos to turn out like this with all of the color, and I considered desaturating them or making them black and white, but I honestly love all of those fall colors around him and how these photos turned out, so I just left them as is. To the right of the title, I added a little phrase tab to which I popped in some staples, and I fussed a bit with the phrase below the title, but ultimately decided I didn't need it. Now I do want to add a few little arrows to match the theme of the photo, and I'm going to pop in a few other little elements here and there, like a butterfly at the top of the title and a leaf at the top of the page. I'm going to go type up my journaling, and then I'll share the finished layout. Off camera, I added my story to a circle sticker and attached it to the page using a brad. I also added some jute colored twine to the tag above the photo and some loops of twine around the elements near the title. At the base of the page, I moved the arrow over near the other elements and added another staple to match the one that I added near the title, and then I finished this off with a few enamel dots. I'm going to share some close-ups of this page so that you can see all the fun details. Our family enjoys days on the archery range most of the year. I try to capture photos when I'm able, and these are some of my favorites with that sun setting on our son as he shoots towards the target. Now, if you're one who enjoys pinning photos to inspiration boards, I have added still shots of this layout to my website and galleries. Thank you again for joining me as I created another scrapbook layout and shared this memory with you. I hope this project inspired you to join the January Scrap the Boys Challenge. If you have any questions about the project or the supplies listed in the description below, feel free to leave me a comment. I hope that you have a wonderful week, and I can't wait to see what you create.